It seems in the summer of 2024, we have gotten way too many self-inserting stories in video games and SJW jargon than ever before. From the god-awful Concord to the upcoming Rainbow Vomit, which is Dustspawn. It got me wondering, why does self-inserting stories and SJW woke jargon in video games get ratioed to oblivion, and why no one buys them? Not even the shills who post positive reviews about them either. Well, I'm here to answer that question for you. Hi, I'm Mugs15, and let's dive into this question. The first thing we need to ask ourselves, what made video games so popular in the first place? What was the winning recipe? We first need to go back to a time where wooden and metal cabinets held mini computers, where flashing lights, addictive music, and sound effects made people curious, loaded with joysticks and buttons for the person to control the action, and eventually insert a quarter, or in the UK, 50p, to enjoy what the cabinet computer had to offer. That's right, I'm talking about arcade games. The 70s and 80s arcades were a popular spot for socialising, competition, and one day complete a game with the least amount of credits possible. Or if you were bad, but you just wanted to finish the game regardless, you gave more of your money to the establishment. Yes, there was a strong odour of BO, burnt cheese and meat, that wafted into the air, but that is what got hearts racing when we take it all in. But in the 90s, when I was a small kid in a buggy, is where things really took off. Remember games like Street Fighter 2, Tekken, Mortal Kombat that landed arcades on the map, making a $8 billion industry, or $19,238,298,393.27 in June of 2024 money. When you look at the games, especially the fighting games, do you see any self-inserts? Do you see ugly women? Do you see any weirdo datems? Nope, beefy strong men and sexy women beating the living daylights out of each other. Or spaceships shooting aliens to defend the planet. Playing pinball machines, hearing the bells, the whooshing ball bouncing everywhere as you use the flippers to guide the ball around to score more bonus points, or if you're lucky, an extra ball, until the fun was over and you had no money left. Or if there was a free to play place and you paid an entrance fee, you can stay there all day till closing time. But for fighting games, you had to be in a queue, unless you was the one that was whooping everyone's behinds. Yep, just pure escapism from the real world. No politics or being lectured to, a lot of trash talking, and a once in a lifetime show of adrenaline competitiveness. That's all we wanted, just pure fun. Then years later came the game consoles, where most arcade games were ported to them, like Ghosts and Ghouls, Altered Beast, Super Hang-On, Outrun, Pac-Man, Street Fighter, and many more. That's when the arcade craze started to die down a bit, because why waste a lot of money when you can just buy a console and the game? Plus, it's not like you can carry an arcade cabinet on Mortal Kombat 3 anywhere and everywhere. Why not have it on a small device? When you play games from around 2014 and now, if you've been paying attention, you can see things took a massive turn for the worse.
Here tonight to present this year's Ambassador of the Year Award is Neil Druckmann, creative director and writer on The Last of Us.
The Ambassador Award honors an individual who has helped the game industry advance to a better place. Anita Sarkeesian's work has done just that. A feminist and a media critic, Anita is a fan of popular culture, and she believes that it is one of the ways in which we learn about ourselves and the world around us. And that part of being a fan is to celebrate characters, stories, and programs that we love, while simultaneously being critical of the myths and representations that media can perpetuate.
Because SJWs may need liberal white women, hated video games, let alone gamers, for their no-crap nonsense from weak-hearted people, as well as those who just love dark humour, dark stories, sexy women, and trash talking and chat rooms. But there are some other reasons. But the main reason is they once tried to get their foot into the door, but ultimately failed due to their storytelling and creativity being absolute dog shit, to their own narcissistic behaviour and making everything political that will get them kicked out before they can set fire to anything that has already been established and well founded. Instead of taking the criticism and having to admit what they were churning had no supply and demand, let alone had an audience, they instead think they are misfits or victims of their own undoing, and that the establishment needs to be taken over, as they think they can do it better and make the gaming world a better, safe space for inclusion. This was a seminar from GDC 2018. You know, the one where men children screamed and wailed to the heavens for not getting what they want in the video gaming world. These are the women who made video games for girls for the PC in the 90s, but listen carefully at what they had to say, and especially why they were gatekept from the console market.
I mean, are there any women devs in the audience who haven't experienced a bunch of crap at work? Oh, good. Do you work in all-woman companies?
And I would go into our developers and say, how many women do you have working here? And they would inevitably, they would say, our receptionist is a woman.
Yeah, there's two over in
Our
marketing.
marketing person
Yeah.
is
Our
a woman.
security guard.
And I would say, your marketing person, I'm like, is your marketing CMO like the top? Oh, no. It's our junior marketing person.
Yeah.
She's really cute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, our company was 80% female, and if I could have bottled and sold all the drama that went on in that company between women, I'd be rich now.
That's actually a show.
Seriously, the first thing that you ask is how many females are working in this establishment. No company will take you seriously any longer, and it's code word for I want to take over and want things to change for me. Hence why no one would want them on their team, because they're going to cause so many problems financially, and the team morale will crumble in a nanosecond. Because this is the video game market, many males will be interested in this field, so there won't be many females in this establishment.
True.
That was big.
But then Mattel decided we were going to be on a game console.
And it worked.
It sort of worked. It did. It just, one of the things I was asked to do in 97, 98 was to actually speak at Sony and to talk about the PlayStation and talk about doing some girls' projects. And I gave a speech about hair play and makeup play. You can imagine how well that went over. And I was literally told, never come back here again. Never, ever come back here again. We don't want to hear about hair play. And I'm like, it's going to look so awesome on this engine. And they're like, we don't need any of that. Please leave.
Oh my God, just and look, I consulted for Sony on girls the same year you did.
That's so funny.
And they were just like,
Yeah.
Dicking around.
And then we went to England. So we went the next, so I was like, well, where were we going to do? I'm like, my general manager was like, I don't know, what do we do now? I'm like, let's go to Europe. Let's find somebody within this whole Sony thing that's going to understand. And so Sony Europe put out Barbie, was it Barbie Detective? Barbie Detective? The first, Barbie Writing Club on the console. Thank God you're here. And it was a hit. I mean, and it was right for the time and right for the platform, because so many of the consoles were also going through this change where they were getting better and better upgrades.
Yeah.
And so those were starting to slide down to the girls in the family.
we pitched to Sony.
Everybody,
We all get
and-
kicked out.
and
That's awesome.
I sat across the table from him, and he was on the phone closing a multi-million-dollar licensing deal with us sitting there in the office. And then he put the phone down, and he looked at me, and he said, "Games for girls, huh?" And I said, "Yes, sir, that's what we're doing." And we started into the pitch. He says, "What can you give me for $150,000?
oh,
And I was like,
man, not much.
design doc?
A punch in the nose, right?
Yeah, $150,000.
Well, after funding 4 years of research to the tune of about $8 million, Paul Allen of Interval Research came to see our first web demo. And he sat there and he said, "Wow, that's cool. Can you do that for boys?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding? Have you paid no attention at all?" You know, it was very special.
Yeah, there were a lot of those meetings.
Yeah.
Well, if they did their research and kept up, there was a console war going on. Sony PlayStation were more focused on ways to kick Sega and Nintendo's behinds and be 3 steps ahead with each attack. They weren't interested in games for girls or Barbie. There was no market for it. There were eventually Barbie games in the UK, however, they bombed because what would little Cindy be doing? Alright, all the things that woman just said, but on herself and her friends at a slumber party or the park.
There's so much to unpack. It's like you can talk about Barbie and we talk about like having balance. To me, it was also always the balance between games that were all about death and destruction and games that are about creativity. So for me, plus a huge Barbie fan, played with Barbie until I was 16. I started doing the Barbie movies. I became an independent producer and then was working on the movies. And then I went and looked again at the games group and I don't know what happened to all the girls. It was like, we did this and I thought, oh, from now on, there's gonna be tons of games for girls and it was gone. By 2006,
Yep.
there were no, went into THQ and pitched All-Star Cheer Squad. So my thing was also about the Wii and how I was seeing girls on it. I'm like, it's time to do it again. Let's
Right.
just do it again. And then we did it, and then the financial crisis happened. And again, I was like, but that doesn't matter. There'll still be girls. They're still not girls.
Well,
I'll tell you what little Cindy will be doing. Question: what happens to an average 6-year-old child from 1998 to 2006? She'll be a teenager. She'll grow out of her Barbie. And let's just say she's a gamer herself. Well, thanks to the influence of her brothers or other boys, what would she be playing? Oh right, games about death and destruction. Who would have thought? But again, girls can do that without a game console. They can go to cheerleading camp or gymnastics school, and those skills that they have learnt are for life. You can see now why game publishers didn't hire them or hear their pitch, as it was going to be a waste of time from the start. The ones that did hire them, well, they paid a very heavy price financially. In 2009 for the Wii, again, what games would the average girls be playing? Again, many games that boys will play. Super Mario, Kirby, Zelda, Sonic. I mean, there was Just Dance as well, but that was everywhere. Also, there was Nintendogs and also Nintendogs and Cats for the 3DS. And who would have guessed? Females play that game more than males, as females love to collect and take care of animals.
and there's also, it seems to me that there's such a paucity of diversity in play patterns in shooters and war games, and it's like, don't you guys get bored with that shit? I mean, you're doing the same thing over and over.
Lady, if we were bored of it, no one would buy those games anymore. Don't you know the saying, if it ain't broken, don't try and fix it?
So having play patterns that are about creating stuff that a doll can wear, or managing your social status in a group of kids, I mean, these are play patterns that nobody had looked at, and I still don't see enough of that kind of experimentation across the hall. And by the way, we're the experimental game designers.
Absolutely.
If they're now talking about play patterns or behaviours in the video game market, then why not focus on making video games that would sell and not focus on a certain niche audience that will not make stable income?
It's really hard to give Purple Moon cooties. We
I remember you.
honestly.
And now with AR, you can do that.
Yeah. The idea was to make this obvious that boys, this is not for you. Because we knew that if a boy played a game and pronounced it lame, his little sister would never touch it.
Right.
So we didn't want his hands on it to start with. And I think that was a pretty good strategy.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing what you're saying. I think that's a...
Well, that strategy worked out for you because Purple Moon was liquidated in the space of 2 years. Reasons? Well, lack of funds and no profits were made, which equals bankruptcy. Then eventually was bought by Mattel. So you see why Sony wanted nothing to do with these people in the 90s. They don't understand the market, let alone being a male dominated market. They can't sell new products and have to rely on well established brands already. The stuff that they were pitching anyone could do in real life. Even the 4-year-old girls knew this too, hence why they were not interested in a gaming console. They were fixated on marketing for girls, a very niche audience in the 90s, when the PC and the internet took off. In the 2000s and onwards, doesn't exist anymore. So these women are not serious people. I guarantee you, if these women got what they wanted, they will absolutely mommy-cuddle and pussify the market very early on. You will not have games like GTA, God of War, Call of Duty, Death Space, or even Bayonetta, and the video game market would have crashed very early on. So when they pitched their ideas and were told, stop wasting our time and never come back, so Sony didn't want them, finally stepped into the real world that it doesn't matter what your goal or mission is. If you don't make bank, then stop wasting a serious person's time. They could keep crying misogyny all they want, but money doesn't care about what you have to say or how you feel. But we'll see, what about IPs that are fresh and new? Surely there's an audience for fresh new talent and studios wanting to create their own IPs. Okay, I'll give you another example. Meet Dustborn. I'll play the video and once again we'll dissect to see how bland, plastic and has no creative soul this art really is.
In a world divided by disinformation.
So yeah, she said disinformation and you see right there the Trump wall. So already we're in the worldview of the hyper-leftist.
Where danger lurks around every turn. A motley crew of misfits embark on a fateful road trip to discover their true.
Please tell me you're done.
Oh, we're just getting started.
Oh crap, yep, you gotta have that ugly lady and a stereotypical black lesbian woman. And the world of misfits is just a chef's kiss to feel oppressed in the gaming world.
What is this music?
I believe the kids call it K-pop music.
Just K-pop.
Turn it down.
Leave my music alone. Shut the hell up.
This is just so cringe. And if she can force choke people just because of a little bickering can set her off, yeah, I'll be running for the hills.
Words have power. They can give you strength. Ready for this? Stand still. Words can bring people together and tear them apart.
Words have power. Yeah, the stereotypical leftists can't handle. Words are violence. They hurt my precious fifis. Words tear people apart. Again, it just shows little strength and resilience these people have. If words can make you cry and set you off, I'm sorry, you've been mommy cuddled too much. Or if you've been in university safe spaces for too long, and these ugly ladies with the vitiligo skin just shows lack of creativity this game has. Oh, and we have a white man redneck that's a threat to the party as well. Well, moving on.
But if words hold so much power, he has no respect
Yep, draconian white people guards.
for you.
She's right.
The question is, what do you have to say?
I think we can all agree.
Oh, there's a guy knitting in the background. Can't have that Tom Daly Latino added into the mix. In the second trailer, you can see the people who wrote this are using real world experiences at universities and their inner circles, mixed in with having coffee conversations at local Starbucks. The music is bland, it's generic as well. We're the aliens. we're the refugees. Again, this is the worldview of these people, why people bad and that we're all oppressed against the system. Yep, absolute cringe as hell. But my question would be, would a 20 or 50-year-old hardcore gamer want to play this? Of course not, as they will see the same things I'm seeing and will drop this game entirely. And being ratio just says everything. But who are the people who created this abomination? Well, it's these guys. Hang on a second. Oh lord, the characters look exactly like them. When I watched this trailer in 2023, I thought it was a Babylon Bee sketch, but this is real. So with my last bit of mental strength I have left in me, let's look at what the reviewers said to make this game more appealing. So this is from the fans of the Playground company. When it was first revealed, Dustborn hit with some negative feedback from those who believe developers are being pressured into making their games more diverse. Ragnar Tungist, creative director at developer Red Thread Games, insists that isn't the case. I think publishers and developers are understanding more that there's a wider and more diverse audience out there, he says. Games are becoming more global. Games are becoming more accessible to everyone. That means the audience changes. Ragnar says he understands why people might push back, especially if you are the kind of player who's used to seeing yourself on the screen. But he says there's room for games that feature casts, stories and perspectives were less used to seeing. We're just making one game and that will hopefully find an audience. Maybe it's a different audience, and I think we can afford to be different, he says. Dominique says she's not a fan of buzzwords and buzz sentences linked to representation, but that there is some truth behind them. I think there's nothing quite like seeing yourself on screen or in a video game if you've never ever seen it before, she says. Dominique says she was drawn to Dustborn because the characters were multi-layered, and Ragnar says the developers wanted to create a cast that just feels like a representation of the world as it is today. Ragnar Tungist admits that his team, based in Norway, is made up of people that look like him. So Ragnar says they tapped into the cast and found writers who are more representative of the characters in the game. We think it's more interesting. It's the right thing to do, he says. And I think the stories that come out of it are also more original, more interesting. So we have a bunch of narcissists with a distorted worldview. Not only that, the people who can only work with Ragnar Tungist have to look like him and think like him. So no grounded individuals or people who don't have the same political leanings are allowed. Why am I not surprised? Gotta keep that wall of illusion up somehow, but knowing deep down they're lazy and boring. Now we know the cast and the developers have a dangerous view of the world that any kind of struggle is oppression from the white man. So really, this game is not a video game at all. It's either watching an interactive movie or reading a comic book. We don't have an audience for it, let alone we don't know who this game is intended for. But yep, it's Tumblr fanfiction all over again. This is why I hate the video game industry right now, because of these people who are in charge of it. This game just screams, you will listen to us now, gamers, see our view of the world and see how virtuous and right we are. Where there's nothing there that appeals to the average gamer. It has no soul. So of course, a publisher like Sony or Microsoft didn't fund this. So where did Red Thread Games get the money, knowing their history of game failures? Well, it came out of Norwegian taxpayers' money. So this is funded Trump derangement syndrome propaganda. I mean, why not put a Trump lookalike on this game? Oh right, it will be too obvious, so we just put John F. Kennedy instead. So this is a game about fighting authoritarianism, but it's funded by the government. Jesus, and I thought Canada and America were bad. So now that we know the dangers of why self-inserting characters and self-inserting narrative writing leads to bankruptcy and leaving gamers not to trust them no longer. So in the days when video games were thriving, what was the worldview of video game developers and why did the games sell like hotcakes, leading to the video game companies being worthy of having a kingdom of their own? Well, back then it was all about heroes saving the world from evil. You had hedgehogs, plumbers, buffed up men and toned women saving the world against zombies and aliens, and so on. But there was also life lessons for youngsters as well, from the classic what it means to be a strong individual, the importance of taking responsibility and self-sacrifice, not being tied to the past and letting go of it. Also, those who do not respect or do not know power will be ruled by it, and so on. But in the 2000s, things were edgy as hell and it was more fun than ever, where game developers were not scared of pushing the envelope in society. But in the eyes of the self-inserting progressive, that is their kryptonite, as that is against the worldview of their romanticized victimization. Because if they were told to make those kinds of games and stories, DEI and politic worldviews is not the forefront, let alone non-existent, it would mean they had to look deep within themselves of what made one strong and confident, let alone human. Meaning there is no time for being a victim, it was time to be a survivor. But in their souls there's nothing there, just hollow shells of their former selves. But of course that would mean the jig is up and the con is over for them, because they can't create things, only destroy what makes one strong, intelligent, beautiful and human, because all that they're known, let alone accepted, is the easy path of crying and guilt-tripping people like a spoiled 5-year-old. Take a look at the developers in the 90s compared to today and see a huge difference. And I'm not talking about people's skin colour. This was BioWare in the 90s. As you can see, it was all men. And of course you had the odd 2 chicks in the between. And look here, a black chick and a white girl, but do they look like very liberal crybaby women? Do they have a disgusted face saying that there's too many men and something needs to be done about it right now? And what about the men? Do they look like their masculinity has been sucked out of them and have soy boy saggy boobs? Nope, none whatsoever. What about this team who made games in the UK for the ZX Spectrum? Nope, all the same here. What about Capcom in the 90s with their music team and the team who made Resident Evil 2? And again, no liberal blue-haired women or soy boy men. Oh, by the way, this was QuakeCon in 1996, and again it was full of men and the odd woman who just wanted to play the video game. When you look at these people in the photos, they look like very serious people. Their top priority was making awesome, timeless product, and that was it. No precious fees had to be considered, no political flags or badges have to be worn, no DEI tick boxes, none of this pronoun bullshit. The companies wanted serious people. All they cared about was keeping the audience hearts burning with passion and keep their minds fueled on hope on the next big game. And then came the big money. But what about today's developers? Yep, full of people who can't solve their first world problems, demasculated men, and full of hair-dyed, ugly wino women. This photo was the Sega team that was taken in 2023. But don't worry about the Allied Employees Guild Union, as they got laid off in March the 8th, 2024. And where were the staff members? Oh, Commie California. What a surprise. The reason for the layoffs? Well, it's obvious. They weren't making any profits. I mean, did someone tell them that companies will always treat you like a number and you were easily expendable? And if you were the ones that cost them money, as well as being the most annoying people, you're the first to go. God, it's like the Alphabet Workers Union all over again.
Still refuses to acknowledge us as their employees, even after countless losses in court which say the contrary. Needless to say, this has been a long fight. We've had many victories, such as unanimously winning our union election and having the NLRB declare Google and Cognizant as joint employers. But we still have work to do. We are disappointed to learn that this resolution has been delayed, but we can wait another month. We've been in this fight for a long time, and as far as I'm concerned, we have the council's support, and we have already won. So the passing of this resolution is yet another victory and another step in pressuring our employers to come to the negotiating table and bargain in good faith. There are less than 50 of us at YouTube Music, and we're taking on 2 of the largest corporations in the world. So to be supported by the city of Austin and also our allies in the labor community, give us the motivation to keep this fight going.
Not to interrupt, but they just laid us all off.
Oh.
Yeah, they just laid us all off.
We just all, I guess we just all
Our
got
jobs are ended today, effective
Wow.
I'm sorry your time's expired, but we'll We'll follow up on this. Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes all the consent speakers.
These people think everything is a battle, when it never was in the first place, and especially one you cannot win. The reason why self-inserted characters don't work because it's bland, lacks perspective, and ultimately lazy. And if the original IP had been retconned to oblivion, it's also narcissistic and disrespectful. When it comes to storytelling itself, you have to make the audience think and feel for themselves why the characters behave the way that they are, what made them come to their own conclusions on how they view the world, what made them make the choices that they made. But when it comes to self-inserts, everything is right there in front of you. You already know how the story and the characters will play out due to the writer's worldview right in your very face, especially if they are a SJW or a DEI consultant. But what's worse is a blank slate, an empty void of nothingness, making the audience feel not only that they've wasted their time, but they have wasted their 60 quid only to be lectured to. The real reason why video games resonated with people, but mainly men, is because once upon a time in the golden years, there were a lot of stories that taught people how to be the best versions of themselves, while escaping to another world or story in between. There was not a time for crying or being a victim. It was a time to stand up, fight, and take responsibility, and have a lot of trash talking and banter in between. I mean, who loved playing as a special operative agent saving the world from zombies? Who would have loved playing as a martial artist, shooting key energy? Who would have loved going on an adventure trying to save the world as a warrior or sorcerer? I could go on, but you get the big picture. Yes, we wanted to escape to another world for a few hours. If the content was awesome and the company listened to what the gamers want, then yes, those companies are worthy of our time and money. It wasn't rocket science. When we look at the golden ages of video game studios, it was led by people who were very serious. They wanted each game to be a memorable experience. They wanted people to remember how the story affected them in some way, and the gameplay being mega addictive, leaving the audience to take some wisdom or hidden truth from the game itself. The edgy satire from GTA that made us cry with laughter.
We are women and we are free. We're bringing an end to the patriarchy. We are women. Hear our pain. We are women. Hear our shout. We are women. Have no doubt. We are women. We are free. We are
Shut the fuck up! Thank you.
The RPG stories that stirred the soul.
You'll be my living legacy. My honor, my dreams. They're yours now. I'm your living legacy.
Enduring the misery of failure from death after death after death, until after finally learning from our mistakes, we finally claim victory on defeating a hard boss.
Oh my god!
Let your flesh be consumed by the scarlet. Let your flesh be consumed. Let your
You did it! Holy shit!
Thank God.
You got lucky on that.
I did.
Those
It
last
tracked
few
her really
moves.
well.
This is what peak truth and beauty in video gaming was all about. Because like in my previous video about why sexy women are needed in video games, and I'll repeat this quote again, truth and beauty cuts through our bullshit excuses and it demands that we must become worthy of it, as well as being the enemies of easy, undisturbed, mild man-children. Why do you think I stopped watching game shows altogether? They're not there to appease to gamers, they're there to show the investors and that they tip box all the DEI quota, leaving everything else bland, generic and tasteless. Generic and bland content comes from people who want to take the easy path, as well as wanting instant gratification. Web creators who can't create at all, taking already famous IPs and turning them into soulless content that no one asked for, and disrespecting the source material in between. Or if they are naive and stupid enough to create their own, only to find out that there wasn't an audience for it at all, costing them their job and the company. If those creators actually cared about those famous gaming worlds, then why completely change it, especially for the worse? Easy answer is because they don't. And they do it to get attention and say, look what we did, look what we did, look what we did, while everything that they've touched, let alone stepped on, is burning in front of them. Or maybe it's because they wanted to get payback on the video game industry for not being hired them in the past. The proper response to dealing with vindictive crybaby creators and DEI consultants while preserving one's own liberty is when we face them, we don't just continue to give them our money or give them our watch time, hoping and begging that they will listen and then the pain will go away. We need to cut the money supply from them, and by opposing, end them. You know, the wallet is mightier than a virtue signaling. I can say strong platitudes all day. I know some people who counter or reject that statement, but need I tell you, investors or stockholders' money is not forever. Again, the people who take the offer are not serious people. They have no life or social skills. These are the losers who got bullied at school, and rather than to let go of the past, endure and become a stronger individual, no, the mommy cuddling was too great and they can no longer handle the power of responsibility. Every serious financial person out there knows taking the money while at the cost of screwing over the video game customers, let alone developers, is financial Minecraft. Let alone they are not interested in the art itself. After failures of sales in video game titles, massive layoffs from studios, or worse, video game studios going completely bust, it seems there's still hope out there, as it's looking some studios are starting to change and starting to listen to the gamers again, while other indie studios are still going strong, not giving in to the temptation of easy DEI money that poisons the well. There are small wins for small video game companies, but many more small wins turn into big ones, like a small drop of water collectively coming together that will eventually make huge lakes or even oceans. This is Wilkes15 signing out.
Stand firm for what you believe in, until and unless logic and experience prove you wrong. Remember, when the emperor looks naked, the emperor is naked. The truth and a lie are not sort of the same thing, and there's no aspect, no facet, no moment of life that can't be improved with pizza. Thank you.
You are racist.